Today, viewers, we are launching the bars, not bars iron brew.
Right, no product promoting, dear boy. Afternoon, folks. There's a fair few yous already in the chat. Obviously, you get your notification on YouTube. I'll just pop onto Facebook and so.
Well done, Paul. You ran and you caught that bus. You got there. Hi, Chris. How you doing? Hello, Lenny. Barbara, hi there again. Mark Telfer, Stefan Bankia. Welcome to all. All right.
Right, the Facebook comments should start coming through now because as usual, when I went live on Facebook, it wasn't even friends and family anymore. It was private.
Yes. Yeah, I can believe it, David. As I said the other week there, nowadays when I do a blog, an article, whatever, and I try and post it to any of the groups, I'm getting thrown right to the bottom of the group, right to the so far down. It takes me ages to scroll to it. Even if it's one of my own groups.
Camera or something. That's better.
It's because you were showing me your watch.
That's what it was. I was pissed about the camera. Anyway, we seem to have a fair few on board, 70 and rising, so we'll get a couple of minutes for the people on Facebook to start dropping in. I'll have a wee look on Facebook and now, see what's going on. As I say, I've just changed the settings to public on the video. So it should now be.
Well, I've just got some personal to report to people, I've got one of these great big Yankee fridges that I got way back when I was a bit better off, right? And the ice maker on it went. So I've spent literally hundreds of pounds trying to get this blooming ice maker to work. But then I looked on Amazon and I found an ice maker, wee unit, about a foot by a foot by a foot, and it produces ice like you wouldn't believe. You can actually run an entire pub off this wee thing. Brilliant. Cost me £100. Best thing I've bought in ages, apart from the watch. It's like, seriously, great.
You liked the gadgets, didn't you, man?
No, see this watch. £26.
So, we're not promoting any of your gadgets on this show. All right.
We'll do a Two Davies gadget show.
Unless the people who run that watch company are going to make a huge donation to the food banks, then they're not getting advertised in this place.
That's a point. Hello there. Is that Amazon? Yes. We would like to make an offer to you as the Two Davies.
Right. I never thought of that. Anyway, get the blue book out.
Yes.
That's the Two Davies blue book.
Yes, David, that's the wrong one. That's light blue. That's your girlfriend's. Be careful, man. We're reading none of that out.
Hey, that's a black book, you spanner.
Right.
Anyway. Right.
I'll be through there sharpening the axe.
The Facebook comments are coming through now, so welcome to everybody who's on Facebook. Stephen, Nancy, Tommy. Hi, Tommy. How's things doing there in Saltcoats? Huh? Need to pop down and get a burger, man. Some of the burger vans in here are serving crap, sir.
I've got a memory as a kid at Saltcoats at the Lido. The swimming pool that's outside. Being that wee skinny, or skinny at the time, right? Wee skinny thing shivering, like that after coming out the Lido.
I made a similar experience at the outdoor pool behind St Andrew's Castle. It was a bloody misery, sometimes. The North Sea can be pretty chilly.
Yes.
Right, let's get into it. Welcome, folks, to Two Davies on the 13th of the 7th, 2023. And the first thing we're going to report and tell you about is the SNP have successfully managed to get their books into the Electoral Commission, as we said they would, David.
Yeah. Look, this is something we all knew was going to happen. There was no way it was not going to happen. Everybody's thrown every conspiracy theory at the wall that they possibly. The reason they don't want to put these books into the Electoral Commission is because it will make everybody look guilty or whatever. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense.
Don't know when MC. We don't know when we're doing the TNT show now. John's away on vacation. He's celebrating his 21st wedding anniversary. We'll see what happens when John gets back.
Few personal problems just to resolve there. Nothing big, but it's just the people that are involved need to get that out of the way first, and then we'll do it. All right. So yeah, the SNP accounts. There was no way they were not going to be going into the Electoral Commission. It's just been one of them things. You know, it's when I get to the end of the year, I've got to throw the accounts in for the accountant, right? And it means I've got a whole load of work I've got to do. It's not that I'm trying to fiddle in. It's just the fact you've got to start hauling out all these invoices and paperwork and all the rest of it, right? And I can imagine it for the SNP. It's like it's 1,000 times bigger problem. So there you go. They've got it in, right?
Aki's is having mince for dinner. Apparently, he's cooking it the new while watching.
Oh, you lucky swine, you! I've got no mince in the house at all. I need to go and buy some now.
Aye, that's it. Right, let's move on.
Right.
Now, let's tell you, this is a told you so for Davey and I. And this is
no, we don't like saying the words, we told you so.
We do. We
have to. We told you so. Right, go on, David. Go on,
the BBC sex scandal. And we told you this was a cover-up for something else. David and I debated this on Thursday before we went on air and came to a consensus, because at first David was thinking this is a big story as well, until I tell him this is fucking smoke and mirrors. And that's when the financial information started to come out.
I made the mistake of not realising that when a big story goes out on either BBC or Sky or ITV, STV, it's to cover something else up. And that's the mistake I made. And we can never, ever, ever fall into that trap again. All right?
No. That's why we reach out to bounce happy, because when you were looking at the Hugh Edwards stories, I was reading the fucking financial breakdown.
That's right.
And of course, the ONS is backed up what the OBR had to say last week, and what independent economists had to say last week. And they have just told us that the UK economy has contracted. Now, the figures being put out on Sky, David was telling me about this morning, were incorrect in the ticket tape.
Yeah,
we had 0.2% growth.
Yeah, hold on, just before you do that, right? I'm just going to, maybe people never saw what I saw. I put on Sky News, I usually do. And what had happened was the BBC had released the name of the person. I'm not even going to say the name because it's not important, right? But the BBC had released the name of the person that had been covered up for the past few days, right? And at the same time as they were all discussing this thing to do with BBC, the ticker tape that goes along the bottom had the news. The ONS released the figures for May and shows that the UK economy has shrunk by 0.1%. Now, David, please carry on with your bit.
Now, but we know that the figure they've got is wrong, because in April we had growth of 0.2%. So if we are now through May and the figures show that the UK economy has went into recession with a minus 0.1% growth, meaning negative growth, that means we're with a 0.02%, 3% swing. A 0.03% swing, no a 0.1% swing, what they were saying. Because we went from plus 0.2% to minus 0.1%. So we're with a 0.3% swing, and the UK economy is now in contraction. It's official. But we knew it was in contraction. We knew that they were cooking the books, David.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's the same with this unemployment at an all-time low. Well, actually, the figures in Scotland are starting to go in the other direction now. Last month, employment figure shows an extra 50,000 on the dole. You know, so what we've got is the UK economy getting into contraction. We've got companies going out of business because of high energy rates, high interest rates, and we've got nobody investing because nobody's borrowing to invest at this point in time because of inflation, interest rates, energy costs, Brexit. Throw on the basket, and the UK economy is a basket case right now. And that's why you're being That's why all these dead cats are being thrown on the table, so that they can keep the minds off of the disaster that the Brexit and the economy and the state of the economy is in.
Yeah.
And this isn't looking very good, folks, but we've been saying that. You know, we have been saying that.
So we don't like to say we told you so, but we told you so. And here is the message of the day. If you can make it out. Is the backside format? No, he's right right now. There we go.
Aye.
Whenever there's a big story in the media, look for the story they're trying to distract you from. Okay?
And that's exactly what the BBC sex scandal thing was about.
Yeah.
That was a distraction.
Yes. However, having said that, here's maybe the greater point, is that, you know, if we take into account the fact that mental health issues came into it and all the rest of it, right? Had that person been an SNP politician, regardless of mental health, strangely and mysteriously, several forensic tents would suddenly arrive in the street and attach themselves to his bloody house. There you go.
It's true, but David, it is true. So, please, folks, see when one of these big stories hit, like a sex scandal at the BBC, think to yourselves, what are these buggers hiding? What's being slipped out while the mainstream media is throwing dead cats on the table? Because that's exactly what it's saying.
And there always is. We find out a few days later. Oh, that's what they were hiding.
I'm quite sharp on the ball, David. I knew last Thursday what they were hiding.
I'll pay another £100 to your fan club again. There you go.
Well, I mean, you know that's what I do, David. I'm a right boring twat. I've got these figures for years.
What have I created?
Madam Director says she'll second that. I'm just a nerd. I don't sound like your average nerd, but I'm just a nerd.
The latest thing that's going around worldwide because of AIs, right? Artificial intelligence, is the phrase that's going about is the nerds are going to kill everybody. Yeah, absolutely. Aye, you know.
Well, I'm that sort of nerd.
No, it's the other day there. I watched a Netflix documentary about it, right? And one of them had decided to give an artificial intelligence free reign to go look and see what chemical weapons it could come up with, right? And it came up with like half a dozen they didn't know about. Yeah. And it's like, you know, chemical weapons are controlled and all the rest of it, right?
Do you know, I'll tell you the real reason why AI is dangerous.
Why, sir?
Because the input it gets comes from monkeys that learn to talk.
Yes.
One of the reasons why I'm staying away from AI is because I don't think the human race has made it to intelligence yet. Never mind artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
I mean, we just have to look at the way people keep voting for the same muppets and the same busted system. You know.
Well, what was it Monty Python said? You better hope there's blooming intelligent life out there because there's bugger all enough down here.
Right. I'm with Einstein in this one. If you keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome, you're an effing idiot. Simple as that. Anyway, let's move on. What do you make? If you've been paying attention to the Stussy, where the legal migration bill this week, they've been playing ping pong between the Lords and the. I'm sure Daily Blasey has been pissing himself laughing at this.
It's not it really isn't real.
Thanks for the fun on your show the other day, by the way, Daily Blasey.
David, tell me what you told me about last night's debate. How long did it go on for in the House of Lords?
I want to. Okay, that was still going at 2 o'clock this morning. The drunk on all softs were still sitting there mumbling fish.
Absolutely crazy.
But let's get to the. Do you know what? The only thing in the whole thing that interested me was the reply to Lord Dobbs, and I was going to play Maximilian's video on the reply that Lord Dobbs got on in the Lords when he was asking about the painting over of murals at the detention centre, and the government minister that was answering to the Lords there tell Lord Dobbs, and if you don't know who Lord Dobbs is, folks, look him up, okay? What do you call it? Told Lord Dobbs that they were paying to do it because the contractors done it and they weren't commissioned to do it. And then we flip back to the Commons, and the minister who told them to paint over them, Jenrick's standing there, and he's asked about it on the floor of the Commons. And what he said was, oh, Mickey Mouse wasn't age appropriate because it was mainly teenagers going through. I love Mickey Mouse. I'm Gen X. You're a bloody baby boomer.
Exactly. Bugs Bunny. Oh, I love him. Absolutely love him. Right. Don't mind seeing the icons painted on anywhere. Right. And it's like, so therefore, Jenrick's got no right to say that. Right. He's,
but it's just
disgusting, David. It is just pure disgusting situation by a set of politicians that aren't fucking human. Someone's
I'm afraid you can't argue with that. They're only human, David. They just aren't human. But as I say, it's funny how one minister's standing in the House is old soaps telling them, oh, a contractor to put them euros up. That wasn't what was commissioned, so we had them take it down. And then the guy that ordered them to take it down said that's not age appropriate. But what it really was just a despicable act. But as you and I have already discussed, because of the Rwanda carry on, this illegal migration bill, it's just going to topple like a house of cards. But the other interesting thing was that the Lords, in their long sitting, have reinserted two clauses. A cap on how long a child can be detained for. What would you detaining children for in the first place?
Exactly. And
we should call them detention centres, we should call them safe havens.
The thing is, they are not detaining them because we can actually see the news articles, if we look back, where children have just disappeared from these places. They're not locked in, they're not under lock and key, and what happens is, if they're like 13 or 14 years of age, they can get a wee haversack and they can go off and they'll go and find their auntie and their uncle that's living in Glasgow, right? And then they're reported as missing. But the most important thing is that because the Court of Appeal have knocked out the Rwanda thing, the whole thing is like a house of cards and it's falling apart, thankfully. And I hope that the whole thing falls apart, it takes the entire Westminster setup with it.
I'm afraid.
Because if that's what Westminster, people have got to be looking at it and going, do we really want this? Do we want this form of government to actually take control of running the country? No, we don't. And even when you think of Starmer getting in, people must be thinking, whoa, the Labour Party are no looking too blooming good, are they? The stuff they're doing. Yeah.
We'll get to that because that was quite interesting, actually. Because we know that what the Labour Shadow Health Minister had to say about this carry on, so we'll get to that. Yeah. Let's move on to the council tax, but proposed council tax rises in Scotland for the higher bands. Now, this has been proposed by the councils, but it's been bounded about as it's COSLA that's actually a broker in this thing. With the
as you quite rightly said, David, it's what's being punted by the newspapers and all the rest of it is that it's a government, an SNP Green government initiative that's been forced. Not, isn't it? It is the councils using COSLA to make it look like it's an SNP Green bad story.
It's actually Labour and Tory governments are pushing to be able to stick the council tax up on these higher priced properties. Right. So what COSLA has asked the Scottish Government to approve, now get this, and this is going to public consultation, and the Scottish Government went, let's ask the public, right? So it's going to public consultation. But what COSLA, on behalf of the councils, have asked the Scottish Government to do is to allow them to put up a council tax in the bands E, F, G and H. Now, what they're suggesting in band E is a 7.5% council tax rise. In band F, a 12.5% council tax rise. In band G, a 17.5% council tax rise. And in the highest valued property homes, a 22.5% council tax.
Now, tell me, David, what is the percentage that's been flown in the newspapers to
How
make
many houses in Scotland come into that category?
I know,
And you 4 categories actually.
Yeah.
Do you know how many houses in Scotland come into that? How many households? 28,000.
Yeah. So I knew it wouldn't be a huge number, but the most important thing is because the newspapers are unionist and because they will back what the Tory and Labour idiots in these councils want, they'll be shown the highest percentage all the time. So you're saying it was 20%? They'll fly either the 17% or the 20% as being the figure to shock people.
22%. That's right. That's the bit in the papers. What the papers are screaming, SNP government proposed a 22% council tax rise. It's not the SNP government at all. They've actually put it out in public consultation because COSLA, which is the body that negotiates with government on behalf of the councils, has went to the government and asked for this.
Yeah.
And the government have looked at it and said, well, it is a way that we could make taxation fairer. It is a way where the councils could raise more money. So let's go and ask the public if it's what they want. So there's a public consultation started on it. You can find the details of the consultation on the Scottish Government website, www.government.scot, and go into consultations. So if you live in one of these bands of housing, then I suggest that you have your say on this consultation.
I think the biggest band, which is not included in that, is Band D.
That's the majority of it.
Tends to be your old ex-council houses. Am I right, David? Because you've got more knowledge on that.
Majority of housing, believe it or not, is in Band D. But Band A to D tend to be social housing properties or really, really old run-down places for Band area, you know.
Yeah.
But as I say, COSLA have taken this one to the Scottish Government. The Scottish Government's going, well, it is a possible way of making local taxation fairer. Yeah. And it is a way, but let's ask the people.
Yeah. And asking the people, I think, is the important thing. Because if you imagine it, those houses may have large mortgages attached.
Yes.
And the people in them, even though you'd think there would be, there'd be managers or owners of companies or whatever being very, very rich and all the rest of it, not necessarily. They might be hanging on by their fingernails.
Yes. And that's why I suggest that anybody in a Band E, F, G or H household takes part in the consultation. Now, David, you know me, I've been promoting these consultations a lot. If there's a consultation coming up, always go and have a look and see what consultations, public consultations are on the go. Because it might be something that you are interested in and you want to take part in. And remember, these consultations influence government policy going forward. So they are important and they tend to be ignored generally. But if you're in Band E, F, G or H and live in a house like that, because you might not be cash rich, you might just be asset rich.
Yeah. It's not as if you can take a brick out and sell it and it covers your food and all the rest of it for the next month. You can't. You might have that asset, but if you've got a mortgage on it, you're in trouble.
Even if you own it outright, it's just a place to live unless you're willing to go and borrow against it to be able to get through. Right. And basically, when you're borrowing against it, you're remortgaging it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So either way, you're putting yourself in hock.
Yeah.
So as I say, the public consultation on this one has just went live, folks. If you live in one of these banded houses, get involved in that consultation.
Yeah.
But always remember, when you're seeing a story in the press, have a closer look, because 95% of the time, the headline, SNP to raise council tax by 22.5%, isn't the essence or the truth of the story. So that's what we generally do. We go to the source and find out where the source was. In this case, it's Scottish councils asking COSLA to ask the Scottish Government to allow them to make this happen.
And what you've got to do is you've got to go, hang on, Scottish Council, isn't there an awful lot of Scottish councils made up of Labour and Tory working together to keep the SNP out?
Yes.
Maybe I should look at that, don't you?
An SNP bad story which has nothing to do with the SNP. And there's a majority of councils throughout Scotland are Tory Labour coalitions, even though they're unofficial. And if you're watching in England, that's right, Tory and Labour coalitions. So when the Labour Party say they'd never work with Tories, they work them right through Scotland's councils.
Robert's put up an interesting wee thing. Tax the rich, right? Okay, fair enough. We do tax with progressive tax. We do tax everybody, really, right? Well, above a certain level. But you have to be careful not to actually go over the top in terms of taxing people. There's no point in that.
Because there would no point in them working hard if they're only making the same amount of money as you Mrs. McLaughlin who's a queener.
Yeah, back in the 60s, they had the Labour brought in what was called super tax, and it was 19 shillings and sixpence in the pound. There was 20 shillings in a pound, and it was 19 and sixpence was the tax that these people paid. What did they do? They packed their bags and went to America. That was it. That was the brain drain.
We've got another brain drain on the new because of Brexit. All these young executives are buggering off overseas.
Yeah. And what about the young nurses and doctors and all the rest of it that are getting a really hard time off the government? They're looking at Australia and places like that, and they're going, Australia's going, come on, away. It's like, we'll pay you, right? Or look at the sunshine, the beaches and all the rest of it. Just ideal for you. And they're doing it.
Yeah. Hey. So they say public consultation on this. But as I say, the papers are branding this an SNP plan to rise your council tax to 22%. That's what the majority of people walking by the newsstand will see.
Yeah.
They won't actually understand that it doesn't affect bands A, B, C, and D.
Yeah.
And it actually isn't something that the Scottish Government want to do. It's something that the councils want to do to raise finances.
It's something just guaranteed. When they walk past that newsstand, it's the words that run through their head is SNP bastards at it again.
That's it.
And it's not, right? You know, this is... we need to realise, never, ever trust a Tory. That's either a red Tory or a blue Tory. It really doesn't matter.
The other thing, though, today, David, here, is trust the press. These are headlines that people are seeing as they walk by who don't buy these papers because nobody buys them anymore.
Yeah.
Right? But the point is, that's there, as you say, that sticks by their head when they see it in the news. They don't go into the article to discover it's not going to affect 72% of the people in Scotland.
But they might not even know that their brain has picked up, their eyes have picked that up walking past the stand. But it goes in there. And Darren, what's his face, the guy, the magician, what he does with people going in to see his show, he puts up symbols and all the rest of it on the wall. And then he asks them to think of a number. And they've already got that number in their head because they've seen it as they walk through actually into getting their seat, right? Aye. And so that's what happens. This is what's going on. Yous are being led down the fucking garden path. Simple as that. Excuse me, I've done in the
David, as you know, David, that's the reason I started the Anti-Truck Davy thing. It's the reason why you and I do this thing, is to look deeper at this stuff and dig the truth out. And the truth is that the majority of councils in Scotland are Tory Labour coalitions, or Tory Labour independent, as they call it, or Labour Lib Dem, or whatever. It's the councils that want to do this. And that's why the Scottish Government was putting out to public consultation. But what you've got to remember is the newspaper headlines are deceiving, they are untrue, but that's what sticks in people's heads as they're walking by the newsstands in the supermarket.
The most important thing, as is being said on here, right, by Margaret, it's not all bands. It's just a certain section of bands. It's not the cheapest bands, it's the more expensive bands.
Aye. It's E, F, G, and H, okay? And as I say, anybody in band A to D, this isn't going to affect you. Your council tax might have went up by 4.5%. You would have been outraged at that anyway. You know? Okay,
right, let's move on. What's the next big thing, Dave? What's the next big disaster that's going to hit us?
If we've got this mad idea by climate activists that they're going to blockade Grangemouth for one day to cause petrol shortages in Scotland. No, actually, climate activists, you need to do 3 days, because that's how long the tanks under the average petrol station's get enough fuel in it for. Local garage owners and the supermarkets will know exactly what they're going through a week, and they will have big enough tanks to last them a few days at a time.
We have this. This is not new news. It has happened before, where we've had a shortage in the forecourt supplies.
2010, when the lorry drivers blockade canal out at Grangemouth, there was a shortage of pumps.
Yeah.
But the lorry drivers blockaded it for a good few days. Because they could just skip in their cabs.
Yeah. So 3 days. 3 days is about the average that most forecourts will hold. So therefore, we're talking about if it takes place on Saturday, then you might
Friday.
Yeah, you might see a hiccup maybe come the Tuesday or the Wednesday of the following week. So save getting your car filled up until Friday or whatever, something as that. With any of these protests, obviously that situation can change. They might realise themselves that one day isn't enough. They might realise it's going to take more than one day, and therein the picture can change, and that will be the point when you see all sorts of crazy things happening regarding people getting fuel for their cars and fuel for trucks and vans. So anyway,
as I say, we're not against the protest, but if they think it's going to disrupt and cause fuel shortages, we're only telling the protesters, get back in amongst yourselves and get working it out.
Can I say I'm against?
Every petrol station come Friday will have full tanks.
Can I say I'm against any of these protests? No, I'm not. But the one thing that we need to do is we either need to all be against them or all be for them. Because see, the moment you want some wee Tory Torag fucker speaking on TV about, I disagree with it, stops me from getting to my work, stops me from doing this and that. Fuck off. We're talking about the future of the planet here. You can't get your head around that, then don't come on TV and try and gaslight us. Right? So,
and that is the thing, David. We don't talk much about the climate thing, because that's another one of these stories that pushes Bob down the news agenda as possible with our atrocious media here in the UK. Let's not kid ourselves own kids.
Yeah.
The reason why Daily Blase does what he does, what David and I do, what we do, that all the people who are out there looking at the news and looking at Brexit and looking at everything that's going on in the planet, the reason why we're coming on here is because the news is crap. The quality of news output in the UK. Do you know that we're the least trusted news outlets in the whole of the OECD?
Yeah.
And when you get right down to it, the UK at this point in time is a banana republic, well, a banana monarchy, and it's as corrupt as it could be. Westminster is a den of sleaze, drugs, corruption, you name it. And they want people like Mary Black don't want to stay there.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen Lord Alford, no doubt Daily Blase's seen this, but I've seen Lord Alford and the Scottish Affairs Committee telling us that because that 5 billion we're not going to try and find that was went missing through the COVID schemes, because it's only 4.6% of the 160 billion, we're not going to bother Bahookie looking for it. No, the real reason they're not looking for it is because these were all contracts that went to their cronies. That's all money that went right into the corrupt pockets of the cronies and they buggers in Westminster, and and as it fractions down, they'll all get their cut.
And you might be sitting thinking, why isn't somebody phoned the police? Several people loads of people will phone the police over it. The police are not for doing anything about it. And when we're talking to the police, we're talking to the police down in London, we're talking about the Met. Right?
And I see there's a discussion going on about this council tax thing in the threads here. And and I have to say, Mark's right. Now, we all know the council tax isn't the best tax that's ever been put in place. But if you've got a problem with the tax, Aim that at Westminster. That's where the legislation came from.
Yeah.
Aim it at the tax, not the people. Yeah. So that's where you want to take your complaints about council tax to. The very legislator that created it. Thanks, Alistair. Thanks, Alistair. That's brilliant.
Yeah,
it really is brilliant, folks. I haven't looked to see what's been accumulated this month so far, but we'll be back at the end of the month. At the same time, we'll tell you.
Just to let them know, I've sent David. It's me that gets the paper bank statements through, right? And I take a photograph of them, send it through to David. So now the problem is, you do not put up a complete bank statement online because somebody will find some way to screw it, right? What we'll do is we'll look at getting all the information out of it and let you see it, right? It'll be on David's timeline probably, right? But the stuff is going through, and I paid the first wee chunk out to a food bank in West Lothian just the other day there, 200 quid. So that's going. So, and we're looking to get another, almost £600.
750 it's going out this month because that's what the kind viewers gave us last month, 778, right? And we're doing that. So, as we know, there's already the 150 went out to a food bank here in North Lanarkshire. Yeah. The next 200 has went to West Lothian, which is a neighbouring county. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to work my way up the East Coast, right? So the next food bank that I give you details of will be in Fife, and then we'll go to Dundee and Angus.
Yeah.
On this side of the country. How you work it in the West Coast, David?
We need to be like wherever, because there are lots of food banks that really, really need help. And the one thing that I felt very humbled about was I made that payment, and next morning they were at the cash and carry picking up food to give out to people. That's, you know what I mean? So there you go, guys. Then all I can say is thank you very much.
Aye, thanks very much, folks. Right, let's move on. Angus Brendan McNeil.
Yes, sure, we Angus. We like Angus. He's
I've been following Angus for years.
I think he's got a brilliant sense of humour and all the rest of it, right? And it was him that came on our programme, and when we were talking about plebiscite, and I'd written that blog called Plebiscite Freedom, and I get torn to bloody ribbons for it. I don't care, right? But the thing is, it's like after that, because of the situation with the Supreme Court, all of a sudden Nicola Sturgeon was talking about plebiscite. Yeah. So we've got to thank Angus for his work on that, because it was him that brought the thing to the table. He was the one.
What the story is with Angus. Well, the thing is, we don't really know. We know he's not happy with the route that the SNP's taken, but he's going to wait until after the conference has decided on the route forward before he rejoins the Westminster group, if he rejoins the Westminster group.
He's not a happy camper. He's not a happy camper with the SNP, because he's waiting to see how the pieces fall as regards a plebiscite taking place in Westminster.
Let's not tell any lies. You and I are in Angus's camp here, actually. We would like it to. And I thought Ash Reagan's idea of a voter empowerment mechanism was quite a good idea as well, because that makes every election going forward, Scottish and Westminster, about independence and plebiscite independence.
There's Julie Brown saying, I want a referendum.
Don't rule it out.
Yeah, at the moment we can't have a referendum. So what's like the open goal that's sitting there is general election being used as a plebiscite. And the great thing is, because it's not a Scottish election, we've got a lower mark to hit as regards the number of actual votes. So you imagine a Scottish election, they would have to achieve like 50% of the vote to actually get more than half of the Holyrood. However, Westminster is a first past the post election, and therefore, being first past the post, you've got a situation where 41% created the huge majority for the Tories. Also, the landslide election that Blair had way back, if you remember it.
8.6%.
Yeah, that's right. So
what's very important is its own record as a route to independence. Margaret Thatcher put her own record. She put her own record when Alex Salmond asked the question back in the 80s.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we could manage to get the Hansard for that. I'm sure it's possible.
It won't be, David. It will be. Yeah. Maybe have to buy Hansard's records for that year. I don't know. Look into it.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
One thing we do know, it was televised, but trying to find a television record of it, trying to find the television record of it, I'm sure they'll have destroyed it by now.
At least in Hansard, we have got the vocal. We'll
have a written record of what we said in Hansard. So we know. You and I are old enough to have listened to that particular exchange. Unfortunately. You and I are old enough to have actually listened to that exchange. We know what Maggie said.
Do you want to know something? I can look back, in my mind, at exchanges that took place at that time and compare them to what I see nowadays. And nowadays, I look at them and I just see them as little boys fighting each other in the playground.
That's exactly what it's like. It's deteriorated. Mary Black calls the place Hogwarts.
Yeah.
It's just a big private school.
Yeah.
Hey. Anyway,
the fact that Angus will have the choice of either going back in under the SNP whip or sitting as an independent. Any MP has that choice.
Yes, and what we do know is whether he rejoins the SNP group in Westminster or no, he said he's going to run at the next election.
Yeah.
Whether it be as an independent or whether it be as an SNP MP, because it's likely to be a plebiscite election, I imagine he will rejoin the SNP group.
Any MP in Westminster has the full ability to be able to get up out of his or her seat and maybe walk from the Labour group and join the Tories. Vice versa. And we've actually seen it vice versa. We've seen it where a Tory has gone and sat down by the Labour group. Forget the guys.
I've seen it. In fact, we've seen through the years it's happened quite a few times actually, David.
Yeah.
And we even seen the one and only UKIP MP get up and walk join the Tories.
Of anybody that I've known and I've spoken to, there's maybe Chris Law, Stephen Flynn, a few of them that I'd bet my life on them. They're going to act honourably, and I believe that Angus has got a problem at the moment, maybe personally, whatever. But I feel that he will act honourably at the end of the day.
Well, he's a good man. There was a comment there. Here, Salvo has to put out little info on how and what was signed on the union. Did not give permission for the North Sea to be stopped. That's going to do with the Crown Office stuff.
Yeah.
That's why we have two Crown offices. And the claim is it's legitimate because Charles is allegedly the monarch. And these are all Crown estates and Crown properties.
And I feel that James Lindsay's post there, we are already past the point of no return with the climate. And I'm ready for nuclear war. I don't know about the nuclear war, James, but I do know that you're right in the fact that we are down past the point of no return with the climate.
Right, and let's move on, David. I hear that that there's a bit of stushy going on now, £23 million being used out of a fund that was specifically put in place to house refugees. Now, apparently there's a stushy going on about this because £23 million has to be spent on recommissioning existing housing which was to be knocked down.
Yep, and that's it was an article in the Herald, right? And you can well imagine that the Herald, the stuff is largely it's unionist. Put it up, David, if you wouldn't mind. And I'll read the main blurb of it to save people aren't trying to squint looking at the TV. Almost 1,200 homes are being brought back into use to house Ukrainian refugees with the help of a Scottish Government fund. A total of 14 projects have been provided with 23 million to bring 1,168 homes back into use, offering accommodation to those fleeing Scotland due to the Russian invasion. The money came from a £50 million fund. Hey, I thought it was 600,000 we're looking for, but anyway, the money came from a £50 million fund that the Scottish Government set up last year, with almost 1,000 Ukrainian nationals already being put up in 450 refurbished homes, according to government figures. Figures come as the contract for a cruise ship in Edinburgh, which temporarily housed Ukrainian refugees, ended. Leslie, my own wife, she was looking to take a detached duty working on board that, and I said to her, maybe not a good idea, because it would be a very, very difficult situation, and it must be. Any of these people that have had to run away from their own country, my goodness me, what a horror, right?
On the bright side, David, as well as the Labour and Tories screaming foul on this money being spent, what people have got to realise here is that when this war does come to an end, the majority of these people will want to go back and rebuild Ukraine. That means there's going to be an extra 1,000 odd social housing properties ready to be released into social rent. So it's a good investment.
Yeah, of course it is.
I mean, if a building can be if a building can be repurposed or put back into use, then that's always cheaper than building new buildings.
Yeah, it's like a business friend of mine said to me once, right, David, you've won the lottery, you got £1 million, spend it. I'd go, well, I'd buy a big house. He says, I don't spend it. You bought a house, it's an asset. You still got money there, It's like, unless you spend on booze and food and parties and all the rest of it, then you've not spent it. You've got an asset, right? So, and it's the same with Scotland. We spend that money, it's still there. Unless they can actually take the houses and float them over to Ukraine, which they cannot, right? Then if those people go back home,
it's an asset. It's an asset. We upgraded social housing, ready to go into the social housing market.
Yeah. Social Justice Secretary Shirley Ann Somerville said, we stand in solidarity with people of Ukraine, obviously, and are determined to do all we can to help those who wish to build their life here in Scotland. There will be a certain number that want to just stay, like the Italians did after the Second World War. Wonderful. They've been a marvelous addition to our country, right? Our innovative £50 million programme provides a vital lifeline for those fleeing the war by providing long-term and secure accommodation through reclaimed empty homes. I'm proud that Scotland has been able to do that. Okay. There you are. Right. So, that I think is just a good news story. That's a good SNP good. SNP good. That doesn't sound right to me, does it? SNP good.
But as I say, there's a sushi about it, and I don't think it is the right thing to do for these people who are fleeing conflict. But also, as I say, once these buildings are refurbed, they're ready to be put back into the social renting market rather than being demolished. Yeah. So it is a good story. Hey, let's move on. Sushi in the National Care Service.
Oh, yes.
75,000 council workers will now not be transferred directly to a national care board in their area because COSLA doesn't want it, because the councils don't want it. Well, and basically the story is it would be government infringing moving into council territory, but we all know the real reason behind it. The real reason behind it is care services provided by the councils are all outsourced.
Effectively, the noise that's been made here is that if the Scottish Government did set up the care service, National Care Service, and poached those members of staff who are employed by no, they're not employed by council, they're employed by private companies, that the councils use it as an arm's length operation to feed the resource, right? That it would become legal. They'd be going, we're going to take you to court if you try and pinch any of our staff. Can't do it. I've been in business for blooming 150 fucking years, right? And I'll tell you now, it's like, it doesn't matter who you are, right? If somebody comes and pinches your thing, you can't do a damn thing about it.
Let's get to the very core of this. This is Tory and Labour disrupting the creation of the National Care Service, because basically what they're doing is they are protecting the private companies that they've outsourced social care to.
So, you know.
So what we've got is a situation here, once again, where, like the council tax thing, we have councils disrupting the creation of a national body, because it's their ball.
No, but let's look at that in reverse, all right? Okay. We know for a fact that through the Health and Social Care Act 2012, by the legislation, allowed private companies to go in and buy NHS units to maybe fix legs, knees, whatever, you know, right? Spare new hips, right? Where did they get the staff from? Did they fucking knit them? No. What they did was they actually took the staff. Did the NHS sue them for doing that? No, they didn't. Right?
But the point is, David, we'll get a situation again where the councils have said no, you can't transfer that staff. And the real reason the councils are saying no, you can't transfer that staff is because that staff doesn't belong to the council. It belongs to the private company they've outsourced it to.
Yeah. So if somebody came along and made me an offer I couldn't refuse, no matter who I work for, I'd go, right, fine. There you go.
But as I say, the problem seems to be at COSLA and at the council level again. They're saying, no, you can't transfer the 75,000 social care workers into a national care system because A, they don't work for us, and B,
that's either red or blue Tories protecting their pals or protecting their own shareholding. That's what it is.
I've seen a question there come up. Would the Tories in government or whoever wins this next election recognise Alpha or maybe even Angus if he decides to stay as an independent as part of a cohort of pro-independence MPs to make up that majority that would be required of MPs to declare? Probably not. We've seen they don't recognise the Greens in the Scottish Parliament. Yeah. But at this point in time, Poland doesn't make it look as if the Alpha Party is going to get anywhere. But that's nothing against the Alpha Party. They're a young party. They've got a long way to go before they break into the social conscience of the country.
There is only one party that's going to. If we're talking about a plebiscite election, there's only one party. I've said this twice, 3, 4 times before. SNP are what all the international community are going to be watching.
Yes.
They're going to be watching the result for the SNP.
Yes.
We need 31 MPs. Counting the reduction of 2 MPs in Scotland, we still require about 30 MPs. Yeah, 30 MPs to get the bums into the seat. And there must be SNP. They have to be SNP in order for that to work. At that point, if we do manage that to get 30 MPs into the SNP bit in the House of Commons, we've won the Scottish part of the election. And as Humza Yousaf says, the Scottish people will have spoken.
Yeah.
And then, so he talked about further from that, the negotiations. The negotiations aren't to actually say to the Tory or Labour, whoever gets in, oh, can we be independent, please, sir? No. The negotiations are over the CD collection.
Aye.
It's a divorce settlement.
Who gets to keep this part of the house? Who gets to keep this who gets a cat? Who gets a dog?
And you can keep Boris Johnson's wallpaper. It's disgusting.
The next one is genocide in England goes on. Junior doctors go on strike today for 5 days. That strike will come to an end at 7 o'clock on Tuesday morning down in England. and then on Thursday and Friday next week, consultant level doctors and above go on strike. So a lot of people are going to suffer really badly in England because of this of the Westminster government. Now, what the Westminster government have come out and said today was they now agree with the independent peer review body, and they'll tell everybody you're getting this, and that's the end of the negotiations. The doctors want 35%, offering them 6.5% is not going to work. Now, what have the peer review body recommended for public servants doing that road? For police, 7%. For teachers, 6.5%. For junior doctors, 6.5%. And generally 6% across the board, except for one service in the public sector, and that's the military. They're only getting 5% for some reason. I mean, so what we have today is the press telling us, right, that's it, it's over. Get back to work, everybody. Are the junior doctors going to accept 6.5%?
No, but hang on a second. Let's just figure how vital the junior doctors everywhere are. The junior doctors are the ones that work round the bloody clock. They'll find somewhere to sleep actually in the hospital itself, so that a nurse can come and go, hey, can you come and check us out? We've got a patient that's going off here, right? And so they are really, really, really vital. The nurses can only go so far. They might know the treatment, but they need the doctor to do the sign off on a particular treatment. And that means that doctor, tired or not, underpaid or not, has to get up out of his bed, her bed, and actually go and sort out what it is it's going to keep wee Mrs. McGlunford alive for the next 20 years.
That's the thing. That's a worry for our neighbours, and it's a genuine concern for our neighbours. And of course, as their neighbours, we're genuinely concerned for them.
Yeah.
But you know, with the government saying that's it, we've accepted the pay, that doesn't mean the trade unions are going to accept that.
Right. Yeah.
I don't see the real settlement. I don't see junior doctors settling for 6.5% when their wages are the value of their wages would down by 35% over the last 10 years. You know,
you just put it against inflation. You know, if they get 6% again, right? That means effectively you've got they're taking a 9% cut.
Yeah, well, inflation's running. It's stuck at 8.7% at the moment, right? But as you say, they're still taking a pay cut.
Talking about real inflation, David. The headline inflation figures, right? I don't know anybody that lives with those inflation figures. Is there?
No. Inflation affects everybody differently, as you know, David.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: the Scottish government have just offered junior doctors 14%. I think it was 14.5%. Somebody's put it in the comments there. 14.5% junior doctors have been offered here in Scotland. Yeah. The PMA here in Scotland are taking it to their members. Do you think doctors in England are going to settle for 6.5?
And the difference, as we said on the programme the other day, there is the difference between the Scottish politicians and the politicians down in Westminster is that when the Westminster politicians are asked to attend a meeting, you've got the unions along one side of the table and a row of empty seats on the other side. And in Scotland, what happens is the Scottish politicians go in, the unions are there, and they say the Scottish politicians say, right, lock the door until we've got something hammered out here.
But as I say, it's from my point of view, and probably yours as well, David. We've all got family doing that. We are basically cousins.
Right.
It's a real concern, especially for some of our elderly relatives that live down there. You know, it's a real concern.
I don't think I've got any elderly ones left now, but certainly there are ones at my age, which, you know, if I'm truthful with myself, and you would call getting on a bit, you know.
Right.
You know, and it's awful. It really, really is.
But the belligerence and the intransigence of that government down there is killing people. You know.
We need rid, but
That'll bring us on to that'll bring us on to the Blob and the Tories, and of course, it's
like an old horror movie. You know, see the latest, The Blob. Look out, it's behind you.
Steve Case has warned Tory MPs to stop calling the civil service a blob and stop calling it a jam to getting policies put into place. If you're going to give people tasks that can't be done, like the Tories have been doing with policy, like the illegal immigration bill, then it's not the civil service that's causing the logjam. It's the idiots that thought the idea up in the first place.
Yeah.
And of course, Steve Case is going to take a different attitude anyway, because if Labour win this next election, as we know, the civil service is supposed to be neutral. But the thing is, let's face it, the reason why Sue Gray has been hired by the Labour Party is because Steve Case is getting replaced. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Sue Gray will become his boss.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. Well, is she becoming an orange or a mandarin? What is it? What are they called these days?
Oh, I don't know. But what I will say is that calling the civil service a blob and saying that they're a logjam to get policies put in place. No, that's not at all. The civil service are neutral, supposedly.
Do you want to know something? You know, the civil service is full of highly dedicated people.
Yep.
The one that I always have problems with is the Treasury, because the Treasury is.
I practice neutrality and stood against the Scottish people in the Scottish referendum. I actually got lots for it, we know that. But I mean, generally the civil service does a reasonable job in taking the stupid bloody ideas, dreamt up with politicians and making it work.
Yeah. If any have watched, was it the Minister, Yes Minister, right? You see exactly. I mean, that gives you the whole thing, chapter and verse. It shows that what comes out of the politician's mouth is a load of shite, and then the civil servants have to take that away and make it work.
Aye.
So that's it.
So calling the civil service the blob and blaming them for log jams and policy, it's nothing to do with that. If you've got stupid, crazy ideas and people can't find a way to make them work, that creates a log jam. It's no the people who are trying to make it work. It's the stupid bugger that made the stupid idea in the first place.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway,
right. Let's move on. I've got written down here is Boris COVID inquiry contempt. Now, what does that mean?
It means that he hasn't complied with the High Court ruling to honour the information that the COVID inquiry has asked for. And apparently, the phone that they're looking for with the information on it is with Boris Johnson's lawyers.
Yeah. I really don't think I can say much more to add to that, because it's like we know what Boris Johnson did. We know what was basically going on, right? And for Boris Johnson not to hand over his WhatsApp files and all the rest of it, no, he was the guy at the centre of it all. Get them in, and seriously, lock the bastard up if he doesn't hand them over. If he's in contempt carries a prison sentence.
Up to 2 years in this case.
It's just all you need. You wouldn't have to put him in jail for how long. I think Boris Johnson would be a week. He'd be crying his fucking eyes out, right? So just threaten him with a week, get him in contempt, get him in prison, and that's it. Allow all the last of them and have a good laugh with him and a few punches at him, right? So that's it.
And apparently Boris has lost the password for that phone, so he can't get into it. Anyway, don't worry about that. GCHQ's got the back door keys to all our fucking phones. Oh.
No, I can't wait to get to
Did you see Alistair Campbell going off his dinger in I think it was at the BBC today? You know, where the Hugh Edwards thing, he was giving it. The media here has just lost the plot. He didn't get to say the things like you and I get to say, dead cat on the table and smoke mirrors. But what he did say was he points out the things that we're all pointing out. Hey, Brexit's a disaster, economy in contraction, cost of living crisis, interest rates going to whack people way up to £500 a month extra but own their bills by 2026, energy energy crisis, you name it, and they're all talking about some TV presenter who's a parent.
I saw a brilliant wee story, right? And it is just a story at the moment about there's a genius 14-year-old kid who reckons it's down to the giant hadron collider. What's happened is
We're going mental because of that, haven't we?
no, the nerds have done something that's blooming sprung us into a parallel universe.
I don't think this 14-year-old you're talking about a genius. You're talking about a drug addict.
Do you remember that Monopoly, the wee guy that was on the front of the Monopoly board, always had a monocle?
No.
Yes, he did.
Oh, I don't doubt it, David.
Yes, he did. But the fact of the matter is that there's no record of it, right? Also,
Right, listen, I'm not flying along this road anywhere, mate. I'm just no.
I'm
not doing get walked us into it. I'm just not doing it. Listen, that's enough of your nonsense. We're 5 minutes there and we're still going to talk about West Street.
I know, and that is the best of the lot. I've put in inverted commas the phrase "Labour for no hope."
Aye, that's
it. You couldn't beat that. You could not best that. Labour.
What West said in his interview was Labour's not going to offer false hope, so we're not making promises to make any changes whatsoever.
So they're not going to make any manifesto commitments whatsoever.
No, and it would appear Labour's campaign slogan is going to be Labour for no hope. Which we know is not true. It's been but that's exactly what West says. We're not going to offer people false hope. So basically, they're not going to offer any radical policies for change. And basically, Starmer is just saying the same thing as Sunak. We need to grow the economy. We need to grow the economy. We need to grow the economy. And as we all know, you can't grow this bloody economy because there's nowhere for it to grow into.
Exactly. And if the Gavins still want to have Boris's, like hard Brexit, then vote Labour. Seriously, that's the only party that are going to be offering Boris's hard Brexit. It's Labour.
Right. Anyway, it's time to wind this one up because I'm going to work in exactly 54 minutes.
Go on, you do the wind up. Go on you go.
Aye, okay. Right, folks, if you're on YouTube, and we were up there at 200 there watching David, that's not bad. If you're on YouTube, please hit the like button before you bugger off, and subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. If you're on Facebook, share away because it's public. I now can change it to public at the beginning of the broadcast. And hit the like button on Facebook as well. Thanks very much for joining us. Now, if you like what we do,
I'll do this bit, right?
Right.
You like what we do? We are the two Davies, right? If you don't like us, we are Labour for no hope.
I like that, David. We are Labour for no hope. Imagine West Street and saying that in an interview. What do you stand for? Oh, we're not offering people anything just in case we can't hear. Mental. Right, so that's it.
Thank you for joining us. See you again.
Thanks for the donations that's been made today.
Yes.
And that just leaves one thing left today, Davey.
Bye, Davey.
Bye, Davey.
Bye, guys.
Bye, folks.